Welcome to I Heart Geek.
And welcome to another episode of I Heart Geek. Now, this is going to be a different episode. We don't usually do a lot of these anymore when we just talk about one show. And when we talk about one show, it's usually like a multiple season show. We don't get any of that today. We're talking about the one season wonder of Firefly. Yay! This is something that people have been wanting for us to talk about for a long time.
I've been wanting to talk about it for a long time.
I think that was the first request you had when you came on the show. Could we talk about Firefly?
Firefly?
And here we are, almost 2 years later, finally got it happening. I am Dub. I'm here with Christina. I'm here with Skeeter. And we're here with Satomi. How is everybody doing today?
So excited to talk about Firefly. Like it's no joke, you guys. From the beginning, when Dub asked me what my you act me. I like that. You act me. What I really wanted to do. I see now I'm thinking of Acme like in the Looney Tunes.
I think like Akbar. I don't know why.
Well, that works too. It all kind of comes together.
It's all in a sci-fi universe.
And as long as it's in the Firefly universe, I'm a happy camper because this is one of my favorite shows.
And we're going to have some questions about the universe and where they might fit into other places, just out of some little fan casting at some point today. Now, before we go on, real quick, I'm going to give you a word from us. So we're our own sponsor today.
Hey, Geek Rock Stars, it's contest time. We are continuing our 9-week coverage of What If. And during these What If episodes, you have the chance to win some super cool swag from I Heart Geek. Now, your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to visit the @iHeartGeek Show on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Facebook, and make sure to comment. And while you're there, you also want to like and follow us as well so you can hear about all things I Heart Geek. You'll receive an entry for one comment on each channel per episode. So that's a total of 4 entries a week and 36 total by the end of our 9-week contest. So good luck to you, Geek Rock Stars. And remember, keep on geeking on.
Okay. Thank you for, that's so meta because I'm like, I'm talking to you and then I see you on the screen. Yeah, it's weird. Okay. So real quick, while you're at it, if you want to hit the subscribe button, we'd appreciate it a lot. It helps us out. Do it. It's not hard to do. It literally is like half a second out of your life. So if you can do that, we'd appreciate it. So here's my first question. Why are we still talking about a one season sci-fi show that's a Western, that's Chinese, that literally got thrown all over the places in the time slots that the networks obviously had no faith in? Why are we still talking about this amazing show? I gotta save Satomi for last. So, Skeeter, since you just binged this for the first time last night, tell us, what do you think? Why do we still talk about this show?
I literally am blown away by everything that this is. I mean, swashbuckling. I'm going to my notes here. It's a swashbuckling space adventure Western that had the spaghetti Western total comedic side with adventure. And I mean, everything about every episode was different. Every episode was literally different. I mean, you had the same characters, the cool stories, but it literally said like, hey, we're going to have fun. Yeah. I'm still trying to figure out the whole Chinese piece. I don't even that blew my mind, but it was just
theories
cool.
On that. We'll get to that. Yeah. What about you, Christina?
First of all, it's one season of absolute perfection. It is amazing in the way it draws you in. It is the one series that I can watch with Sean and we both connect because it's got that Western feel to it. Mm-hmm. Well, there's another one, but and on top of that, he brilliantly tied it up in a pretty bow with Serenity. I think there needs to be a law that if you drop me a series with a cliffhanger, that needs to happen. I mean, who's with me on this? Come on.
Well, they were not planning on being canceled at all. You could tell. So, Tommy, what about you? Tell us your thoughts on this one.
Well, first of all, one of the reasons we're still talking about it today is actually it was not a complete season. So Fox canceled the show before the season was even done. They aired it out of order. So if you are
Did they?
out there watching it, they aired it out of order.
You suck, Fox.
Out of order. The train heist was written because Fox came back and was like, no, we don't like your pilot episode. So they wrote it, and it just sort of flipped everything. It's out of order. Secondly, when you're talking, this was a classic case of seriesus interruptus. We knew it was going to be good. We could feel it ramping up, and it was going to be so good. And then there was this vast nothingness. You're also talking about this is Whedon at his best, where he's got compelling characters who are a lot of times when you're talking about a pilot episode, the writers are still kind of figuring out who these people are, and
he knew.
He knew. So as soon as you start watching it, you do have to, as somebody who watches it, sort of get comfortable in this universe and what are the rules of this universe. But they're so fleshed out so early. They're so complex so early. So, unlike a lot of shows which might take a season to get into, this one takes maybe 2, maybe 3 episodes where you're like, and by the time you hit episode 4, you're like, I'm invested. I am here. How long are we going to run? So, yeah, and plus it's timeless.
So
the themes are timeless.
If they wouldn't have jumped in the deep end like that, do you think Fox would have given it a little more support?
No, I think Fox was in the middle of trying to recreate the X-Files.
Yeah.
Because that had been
the remake, not the original.
Oh, okay. I was like,
that was fantastic. No.
Okay.
The recreation was not.
No, they were, excuse me, I should say they were trying to recreate the success of the X-Files, and they were just throwing things at the wall with people making decisions that it just, it's that whole thing. And sorry, we can get into the philosophy of producers and, that eye where you do often have producers who are just trying to, the goal is not to make a great show. The goal is to recreate the success of another great show. And so you end up with these sort of weird blinders on where you don't have the vision to see something that could be truly great that might be a little bit different.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because this is like, on the one hand, it's like a lot of stuff we've seen before. And on the other hand, it's nothing like anything we've seen before. And it's the stuff that we've seen before that lets us tie into it and get hooked into it. And then it takes us on a side road that we're like, I didn't even know there was a turnoff there, but this is fun. So I will stop talking now.
Controversial statement. And some people might get mad at me for this, but I think the only reason, don't get mad at me. The only reason Firefly was so perfect is because it only had the one season. If we would have had more seasons, they would have screwed it up because let's be honest, that's when people start getting their fingers in the pot and it doesn't taste the same. Season 2 is never as good as season 1 unless season 1 sucked and then season 2 can be better. I don't know that we would be talking about it if they had a second season. I think they would have screwed it up.
I disagree.
Okay. Please tell us why.
I think it's possible that, any show can jump the shark at any time, but I think this could have had a healthy 5-season run.
5? Okay.
Yeah.
I would give it
a really healthy 5-season run. Because, and I will let somebody talk next, I promise. But even Joss Whedon said something like Firefly is 9 people in the universe, and when each one tells the story of the universe, the story they tell will be completely different.
Wow.
And I'm paraphrasing hard, but essentially he's saying that
that's right.
You look at every one of those characters and they see the world they live in with very distinct eyes. And that's why I think there was space for longevity there.
Christina, what about you? What do you think about that?
I absolutely agree with Satomi. I feel like those characters were created so vibrantly and so richly and incredibly unique. There wasn't
Hmm.
a filler character per se that they could have very easily done 4 seasons, 5 seasons.
Yeah.
Um, you know, and just to be able to fall in love with those stories again and again and again. I mean, look at like Out of Gas, the episode where you get to really get to know how he met everybody. I mean, they could have completely branched off from there into more storylines had they had the time. So there's just
Yeah.
there's a lot of color that they could have filled in the lines with.
Yeah. And I agree. I think I would have liked to have seen that, but from watching TV for the years that I've been watching it, I don't have faith that they would have. I think that it would have been very easy to screw up. My opinion, and I
Yeah,
I would love it
Al-
if I was wrong on that.
but I
Although,
think I think with Joss at the time, he was so passionate and so vibrant himself that I don't think that would have happened. I mean, maybe if we'd have gotten Josh, 5, 6 years down the road, I would be more concerned. But this was like he was his best.
he was very much a space cowboy at that point.
Yeah. And some people call him, Maurice. What about
Yeah.
you, Skeeter?
So I'm right there with you, Dub. I think that, why mess with perfection? I think there's certain episodes that could have spawned a second season following specific items, but it it was just too good in itself, and I'm still trying to really like soak everything in since I did binge. That to say like what would a second season look like? I mean, how do you continue so many different storylines? Whedon did do a great job.
The thread was definitely there for it for more
it,
seasons.
it was, but I feel like, I mean, the characters, the supporting, everything was there. I just feel like it I don't know. It just one season. It was just so perfect. Everything about it. I
Mhm.
just loved it. I mean, anything with that Western theme, like, is gonna stick. Doesn't matter.
Well,
I
that's
mean,
part of our DNA as Americans, whether we want to say it or not. That is part of our DNA, is that cowboy
Well, it's
thing.
funny because I'm not the biggest Western fan. My dad
Hmm.
used to watch them ad nauseum growing up, and I think that might be why. But it had not had not appealed to me. However, I love it
It's
when
the
it's
take
sort
of
of
it, though. Yeah.
turned on its head. You
Yeah.
know, this kind of this. It's westerns in space. All right, I'm in. You know, or Back to the Future. Uh
It's so
it's
many
just
things.
fun
Yeah.
when you've got like a different take on that same genre.
Now,
they
let me.
just paid attention. They
Yeah.
paid
Yeah.
great attention to detail, and that's what would have made it successful in more seasons. Is their attention to detail? Had
Yeah.
they fallen off that detail of the guns? Look at every single gun through this whole thing. I mean,
Would you
from
drop that budget much more? We
historical
got our problems. Yeah.
up through. I mean, you try to, they paid attention to that. That was what was awesome, keeping it with
Mal
that
always
Western
had the
theme.
same horse. Always. I don't know if you guys knew that.
No,
Anytime
I
he
had
rode a
no
horse,
idea.
it was the same horse.
Oh, I
Uh,
love it.
so yeah, that you're right. That detail. Now, let's say this. Let's say they started Firefly in 2018, and so it's going directly on the streaming services. I think this show is more tailor made for the binge than the weekly. Um,
Yeah.
and again, the problem was they played him out of sequence and all that stuff. This show, I think, um if they were given their own deal, I think after the second year, they possibly, as a binge show, they could have their own streaming network that people would pay for that. And I think it would be that big of a deal. But
You mean
it,
like the Firefly streaming network, or you mean like
something like that. I
so
mean,
it's or just to have kind of a hub for that
just
genre?
a hub for that genre. I
Okay.
think this would be huge if it would have started in 2018.
Yeah.
I think that it was too far ahead of its time. I don't think it's a good fit for weekly TV.
It's very far ahead of its time, and I think it's because of the it, and this is something that only happened a little more recently in TV. I mean, not terribly recently, but I don't know if everybody remembers, but when we used to watch episodic TV, everything was sort of encapsulated in its own thing.
Yeah.
And, you could watch those episodes out of order. And then we started getting these huge story arcs. And Firefly really did. They really took that story arc to this sort of contemporary space that we live in now, which makes sense because Whedon's got so much stuff out there. But yeah, I'd have to agree with you there because he saw the full scope of the story as he was writing chapters and letting us have peeks into chapters of that novel.
Yeah.
I feel like if you look back at, early TV, if you had, if it was episodic, you had the to be continues.
Yeah.
Right. And it sucked you in for the next episode.
And I miss that so much.
Right. Because
they were
now
all to be continued. Yeah.
You don't have to be continued. If it's going to roll, they're going to keep that same story arc through the whole thing.
And they'll do a last week, a recap.
Yep. So, like Sons of Anarchy or, things like that, where
Game
each
of Thrones,
week,
Vikings, everything. Yeah.
All that stuff. It's told the same story week after week after week. It wasn't so episodic.
Yeah.
But I'd say that's where I think we have developed as a culture. And I think that, Firefly was on it before anybody else was.
Oh yeah, I absolutely agree. It's one of those shows that I bought on Amazon so I could just watch episode after episode after episode because it's that good.
So now, I know we all love this show, but I want you guys to put your critical hats on for a second. And I want to ask this question. Do you think, even with it, although it only had one season, that this should be in the geek pantheon with Star Wars and Star Trek? Or do you think that without the extra seasons, you can't really put it there? Be critical. I know we all love this show, but I want you to kind of think about that a little bit. Does it deserve that Star Wars, Star Trek, all encapsulating of all geeks? I mean, that is pretty much the definition of geek, would be in that pantheon. Maybe even a Harry Potter would be in that. Do you feel like this should be in that pantheon with only the one season? I know what Tom's going to answer, but let's start with Christina.
Absolutely. And the reason why is because they did so well with tying all of these characters together. They did so well with in 2005 when Serenity came out, people lost their minds. It's one of those things. I mean, for God's sakes, on IMDb, it's got a 9 out of 10. Like, it is a incredibly loved and popular series. So absolutely, I think that it fits into that category it just slides right in without a problem.
Fair enough. Skeeter?
So my notes, going to the notes, I'm going with it could fit into a Star Wars. So, and here's my thinking, could be like a relative of Han Solo, like totally.
No, that's totally what his character's based on. Yeah,
I think Mal is like a distant cousin, something in that realm. There's the two sides. You've got the good side and the bad side with the Alliance and
which is still a little gray and shady,
right? With the brown coats,
yeah,
and then the music. Like, you've got some really strong,
Bon Jovi
in the early seasons,
music.
Yeah. I mean, it's there. So I think this could fit into, early historic Star Wars stuff.
So let me just get this clear. So not as its own entity, but if it was part of one of the entities, no, you wouldn't have a problem with it. Is that kind of what you're saying on that? Okay.
Yeah.
He
totally.
nodded yes for our audio listeners. And so Tommy, let me hear you tell me why I'm wrong.
I think it absolutely has a place with Star Wars and Star Trek and all. And here's the thing. I think the only reason it isn't already there is exposure. It was out for such a short amount of time. And if you notice, whenever you run into somebody who's seen Firefly, it's always, why haven't you seen Firefly yet? You have to see Firefly. Even however many years
It's
since
like
it went off the
proselytizing
air.
like Doctor Who. Yes.
Exactly. Like, you need to watch this. And the reason that I think that it deserves to be there is when you look at those other franchises, those other worlds, it's about that fully realized, complex, fleshed out world building that is in place.
Yeah.
So Star Wars, your imagination can take you anywhere in that universe and create stories because you understand the mechanics of that universe. Same thing with Star Trek, same thing with Harry Potter, same thing with Firefly, because we have this future that has been established. And I know I I think I'm right about why we have so much Chinese language and culture in there. Although I do have opinions about that we'll talk
We
about
will
in a
get
second.
into that in a few minutes, I
We
promise.
will, we will. But it is still a fully realized universe where you know that if you go into the Outer Rim, you're going to be in this less developed, more down and dirty area where they're stripping part. You know what it feels like to me? It feels more like contemporary Star Wars. It has it more
Yeah.
of a Rogue One feel, but with a little more humor.
Well, why I don't think it belongs is just because of what you said. People tell everybody about it, but it doesn't have that worldwide notoriety like the Star Wars or the
It
Harry
will.
Potter. Or the,
Oh yes, it will.
I hope you're right, but
I hope I'm right. I'm
you know,
probably
and I
not.
hope that one day we look at it like we look at the original Star Trek.
Firefly
I-
is the reason I watched The Mandalorian. Like, it can slide right in there. And I didn't get to finish my thought because I drank my coffee too fast and I didn't want to burp on screen. Sorry, guys. But that is absolutely the reason I gave Mandalorian a chance, and it could slide right into that type of story in Star
Yeah.
Wars.
Well, I'm going to move my script around a little bit. Could the Firefly universe be shoehorned into the Mandalorian universe, or do you not want it to have that? I want Firefly to have that autonomy that is its own. Would it be cool to see them interacting with the Mandalorian universe, and would it fit? They could definitely make it fit. I don't know if I would want to, though, because I like Firefly. I would want, if they brought Firefly back, I want it to have its own universe and its own autonomy. I don't want it to be under that Star Wars has to follow the Star Wars rules. I don't want Mal to get a lightsaber at some point.
I agree with you there, and there's a reason why I think it doesn't fit. There are no aliens in Firefly universe.
True.
There is no alien interaction in Firefly universe.
I didn't even think of
And
that, but that's good.
yeah, I mean it could be, again, Star Wars is happening in a galaxy far, far away, so they could be concurrent in the same universe, but it
Not
could be just
necessarily.
it could be the area where humans are still a little too far away to have
Yeah.
encountered, or these humans.
Now, and Skeeter, you said that it could, but do you think it should, or do you think it would ruin it to be in the Mandalorian universe?
I mean, I said that it could, but it would be a very fine line. I mean, it's country mouse, city mouse at this point. With
That's good.
You've got this universe over here, but it could be like on the outer, like I think Satomi said, like the outer rim type of a deal.
Yeah.
Where this is going on over here in a separate universe, or maybe in that universe that's not so far, far away.
Yeah.
They talk about Earth as it in past tense. It was something. So I don't know, maybe they know something that's different. Could it fit? Maybe. I mean, now that we're thinking about it,
I think it's
talk about it
stretching
with
now the
multiple
more I
people,
think about it, but
it's
I
really
love the thought
stretching.
of it. I love
Yeah.
the thought of it.
Yeah.
And if that got us Firefly back, I'm in, but I don't know that I would want it to be under the rules of the Star Wars universe. What about you, Christina, before we move on?
Somi made an incredibly fair point that I hadn't thought about either, about there not being aliens in the show. So if they did it, I think it would definitely have to fall under like pre Star Wars, like before they went to further galaxies where there were more of like the aliens. But Firefly by itself will always be perfection to me. So there you have it.
Very good. Okay, so now let's move on real quick to our listener feedback.
And now, let's see what all of our geek rock stars have to say.
Okay, so for today's listener feedback, I asked a question: what does the show Firefly have such a huge fan sentiment still after all this time, and why do you love it? I only put this up the day before, so I apologize that I didn't give a lot of time for people to answer, but it is what it is. Because yay! But Satomi, would you like to read some of the feedbacks today?
I'll read the feedback of those of you who had time to get back to us because I know so many of you are fans. Scott Pepper said the cast, it's just a great bunch that had a chemistry rarely seen before and not enough since. I will agree with you there, Scott. Their chemistry is off the hook. Mark Hagel said the characters had attitude I immediately connected with. Yes, they did. It's shiny. John Hughes said it made him feel like he was a part of the crew. Isn't that true?
Yeah.
Like you just felt like you could get right on board and be like, hey, what's up? And then finally, Todd, the voice of the show, Harvey, said the fragile humanity that the writers inserted and the cast performed, especially, and the cast performed epically, excuse me. Nathan Fillion is superb is a superb actor for parts, as his was in Firefly, where you want a smart, cynical, very human, i.e., flawed character. And I will agree because I think Nathan Fillion embraces that in himself.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you guys for writing in. That makes the show so much better. And I do want to say real quick, I know the majority of our people listen to the show rather than watch it. And I know a lot of our contests are geared more towards the people that are watching the show. However, we will have something coming for our audio listeners only, because I think that that's fair, because I know there's a lot of you guys that listen and we really appreciate you, by the way.
Yes, we do.
Okay, so let's jump right back into our discussion. Do you think it's an intentional choice for the deep culture dive into the Chinese culture? Do you think that was an intentional thing? Do you think it's just something that Joss Whedon's into? Or do you think it's trying to raise extra money because they knew that all the money comes from China now? So Toby, I think you got something you're about to pop. So I know you've been wanting to talk about this.
Yes. So I'm going to preface this by saying there is an issue in this show that I love dearly. And that is there are almost no Asians in the entire flippin' show. That's an issue as an Asian American. And the fact that, and here we go, this is answering your question. So when you're talking about a projected future, this makes sense. China has one of the hugest populations in the world. They are pervasive. They are culturally, as in our entertainment. Gosh, words are suddenly failing me, you guys. But the Chinese entertainment industry is larger than the American entertainment industry. So much so that a lot of American companies are going over to China to shoot and use their studios now. So you're talking about, a really huge culture that is going to be a part of the entire world culture moving forward. So if we head out into space, it makes perfect sense that we would have ended up with, you're talking about American English. So we are, at least at this point in our world history, we are a global superpower, and so is China. So it would make sense going forward in the future that those two cultures would sort of merge together and meld so that you end up with this, with mouths cursing in Chinese and making little comments to each other. And apparently, I don't personally speak Chinese, but apparently they had a coach on set, and some cast members were way better at it than others. And Nathan in particular was apparently really terrible, but it's still, it makes perfect sense in this future that would be an intrinsic part of the culture. There.
Anybody else have any thoughts on this, or are we going to move a little bit? I know this one's hard because the political stuff, and we're leaving all that out because we always do. But I think that the Chinese culture is amazing, and I actually do love to see it. leaving everything else aside, the culture is beautiful.
I want to learn how to swear in Chinese. It sounded so cool.
I
when
want to
they
learn
did
how to
it.
swear in every language because that's just fun. Skeeter, your head looks like it's about to pop. You okay?
I didn't understand it. I was like, wait, why? And then I was like, well, maybe it's like when we were little kids, and I don't know if your parents did, but some parents spoke Pig Latin around you, so you didn't understand, or they spelled words when you were tiny because you couldn't spell yet.
Until
So
you were like 17, yeah.
Yeah. So, right. So, I mean, they literally were, I don't know. I was like, why are they speaking Chinese? I mean, Tudyk killed the Chinese, killed the dialect. He did awesome, but he's a voice guy. So it
Well,
happened.
he's the dude. I'm sorry.
But, and I was like, why, what, when, where? And like Satomi said, wasn't a single Asian in the entire thing. So what was going on?
I think there were two background characters
I thought
in one of the bars.
I thought Summer Glau was partially, but I didn't know.
Now it could be
maybe.
one of those situations.
She had that look.
Yeah, it could be one of those situations. She could have been mixed.
Yeah.
I could buy her as being mixed, and that would make sense. I mean,
Yeah,
personally,
she
I
had
think
the
for
almond
future-
eyes. That I could see
Yeah.
that.
But
I definitely found myself trying to justify it because how they talk about Earth being a past thing, and I was like, oh well, maybe Asia was the first, nuclear whatever. Maybe that it just wasn't there anymore, but yet the culture carried on. So I always found myself trying to justify it.
Well, the other thing we can look at with that is it's after Earth. So let's be honest, people are going to be hooking up in a lot of different ways that it wouldn't have. Most of the people are gone, so your breeding stock changes. So everyone's going to look a little bit more "quote unquote" vanilla because everybody's eventually
just
gets kind of
homogenized.
yeah.
Although, and I did notice there. I mean, Wash is kind of the only blonde one, though. The fact that we ended up with a redhead in Our Mrs. Reynolds is pretty. Would have been pretty genetically impressive.
Yeah.
At that point in time. But yeah.
So important question before we get on to our main event. I want you to think about this one or how you would be okay with it. Do you want to see a reboot? And if there was a possible way, how would be the ways that you would accept it? Let's start with Negative Nancy over there. Christina.
No. It's perfection on its own. I'm too afraid when you have something that's this beautiful, this exquisite. There's too much of it's almost like realtering your wedding dress. It's so perfect in what it is that it's never going to be that again. And I don't want, maybe if they'd have done it 10 years ago, I would have been more open to it. Maybe I'm just super nostalgic now, but no.
That's fair. So tell me, what about you?
So I am not open to a reboot. However, I would be open to something that was more sequel-ish, like, coming into in the world now with time-wise, time appropriate.
Even though they've killed Wash and Shepherd,
oh my god, don't even.
We'll get into that. We will get into that on our main
again. I will start ugly crying on this podcast right now.
That'd be amazing.
So because that at least would keep it open for seeing Mal, like what became of the the rest of the cast, but I would not see it as them being the core cast. I just think it would be so difficult. They would have their work cut out for them in finding a core cast that had that magic.
Yeah.
We've all had that experience before, either in a work situation or like going to a party or just some sort of group situation where you had like that perfect group of people and it was just like easy and magic.
Yeah.
And that's what they had here. So I think that would be the biggest challenge, is just assembling the cast. And I'd be open to it. I would have high expectations, but I would be open to it.
I have a plan to make this work, but I'll let Skeeter go first.
Okay, so I don't want to see a reboot, but let's put a movie budget to it. keep the cast because you can have the budget for the cast in a movie budget. A little
that's
bit
like-
different.
That's Serenity, just so you know.
That's Serenity.
Right. That's Serenity. So let's up the game some more. You know,
I see.
maybe because if we can
big
kick,
budget.
we go big movie budget. Keep Whedon because he can kick away from that Land of the Lost CGI and into put some more money into the CGI. Then, you know, it could be an awesome feature film. Like this could be 180 minutes of holy moly.
It would need to be a trilogy if you did that.
Right. It could. And
Do you
then
mean retelling the story?
I think so. Like retelling it from the
So a
beginning,
complete reboot.
recreating that love.
And give us a little bit more of the war before.
And I think that if they did that, I think the studios or even Hulu, Netflix, any of those streaming services would be like, we want this, bring it back as a TV show.
Sorry.
Let's go episodic and we win. Right?
That's
Satomi
fair.
wins. We get this episodic thing back. Firefly's back on TV or streaming, and we all get what we want now.
So
Since I binged this in a day.
So then
Now-
would Firefly become like the Enterprise and be sort of, we'd get
Absolutely.
different versions of her?
Yeah,
I'd have to.
totally.
Okay.
No, I would like to make it work. I don't want to see a reboot. I want to see sequel, but it's going to start with 2 full seasons of an animated series where it shows them getting older and it gives you the story of getting from point A to point B, and you get to introduce the new characters. And then when it goes back to live after 2 seasons of this animated, then you have your cast and you have your chemistry, and there's no lapse in the storytelling because you can watch them slowly get older. Then all of a sudden, wow, dude, you're gray now. What happened? You know, because I hate seeing that. But this would give you that step in between.
Can I add just one more thing real quick?
Fire away.
So some of the things that like can get better, the ADR, with the guys that came to get him from the Russian dude, when they went to get the medicine, the ADR was rough.
The phone was a little bad.
ATV in one episode was literally a Harley motor. It was pretty awesome. But my favorite thing was the Starship Trooper helmets on the Alliance guys. Did anyone else notice this?
I
There was
didn't.
straight up the helmets from Starship Troopers. I was like,
I can see it now.
so it was really cool.
Don't
that
take it
that's-
off. Don't take it off.
At the same time, they could 100% justify all of that because, you know, they're salvagers. They've been salvaging all of this material, so it makes that makes perfect sense.
That does.
Maybe the ADR not so much, but
Nice. Okay, well, let's move on to our main event.
Now it's time for the main event.
Okay, so for today's main event, we're not doing our normal top 5, but we wanted to kind of cover just the main characters and kind of our thoughts on them. So let's start with number 1, which is Nathan Filon himself, who's become the king of all things geek, playing Mal Reynolds. What is your guys' thoughts on the character of Mal Reynolds? Let's start with Christine on this one.
So there were moments that I loved him. There were moments that I wasn't so fond of him. At the end, I mean, he's very altruistic, but he absolutely takes care of his crew, and I have so much respect for that. But yeah, there were moments where sometimes it was his character was a little hard to swallow, but it made the rest of them stronger, so I was able to accept it.
I felt like he was too good at times. He was like too perfect, and it's definitely I'm a leading man, and we knew it. That's one of my few complaints about the show. He just felt like, yeah, I wanted him to be a little more flawed, and he was flawed, but I wanted him to have a little more solo type characteristics. Skeeter, what about you? What's your thoughts on Captain?
It's Nathan Fillion. That's all I need to say. That's it. Like, dude is phenomenal in anything that he does. There was a scene, I think it was like in episode like 3, when the doctor, when they bring the doctor back to the ship, to the Firefly, and he said, "Why did you bring us back? Why did you bring us back?" And it was a moment that he looked at him and he said, "Because you're part of the crew."
Yeah.
Like, because you're part of my crew. That was him at his fine. It was one of the finest moments that I've seen him have. And I was just like, I'm hooked. That's what kept me watching this whole thing yesterday. Like, I just loved it. He's amazing.
And before I get to Satomi, Nathan, if you are listening to this, I'm sorry for yelling at you when you were at the Venetian in the pool. I apologize. No, I don't, because yeah, you know why you got yelled at and you deserved it. Nothing but love, though. Okay. Satomi, what's your thoughts on?
Well, I mean, he is the eternal bad boy, but at the same time, he very much the reason we're able to like him so much is because he has his moral compass does point pretty much true north.
Ish.
What gets what gets in the way is survival, and he's seen life, you know, he's seen enough to know that things are not entirely black and white, but he tries.
Yeah.
I think we do see him go darker once we hit Serenity.
Yeah.
You know, when you'll know it when I start fighting a war, you'll know it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm misquoting that, but
It's good enough.
it's good enough. So, and he's funny as hell. And I know that a few things got improv during the shows. And what's so fun is that, again, these actors were able to get to know these characters so well, so quickly. So they were able to improv into those characters so easily. That only happens when you have something that is that fully realized. And I think that's, I get where you're coming from, Dub. Like, you
Mhm.
know, sometimes where it's like, but it didn't bother me. It was more like, you know, sometimes I wish I could stick to my guns, that, you know, to what's right, to make the decision what's right instead of what's easy, kind of thing. But yeah, and that's also Nathan looking his hottest in his career as well. So
I knew that was
doesn't
coming up
hurt.
from somewhere.
That doesn't hurt.
Okay. Now let's go with part 1 of literally one of the most perfect couples to ever be on any television
Ah.
show. We have Zoe Washburn, which was played by Gina Torres, which I don't know if I've seen her anywhere else.
Yes, you have. Angel.
You have? Oh, I was a Buffy fan. I really wasn't into Angel that much. I know.
And a bunch of other stuff too.
Yeah, I feel
think
like I just told
Christina
you.
knows the other stuff. What's the other stuff, Christina?
She's currently on 911 Lone Star with Rob Lowe. She plays an amazing character. As she is so unbelievably talented.
Yeah.
She's done a ton of stuff. You've seen her, you just didn't know where.
So let's talk about this character a little bit. Let's start with Satomi. Tell me, what do you think about the strengths, weaknesses of this character?
Oh, I love her. I love her so much because she is a powerful woman and she has no problem with that.
Yeah. Now, I want to say something about this show as a whole. You know that I've said it before. I don't like when, you know, strong, independent woman pushed in your face, you know, because I'm better than anybody else. I hate that trope. They had all the women in this movie and the show were incredibly strong, but it never felt pushed. It never felt forced. It's like they did what they did and they didn't have to talk about it. And that was right.
Yep.
That was that. Yeah. That's how you write a strong, independent woman. And I'm not meaning to harp on that type thing, but
no,
I feel like they didn't preach it at you. They just showed you what you can do. And I love that. That was so perfect. Mm-hmm. And starting with her. Skeeter, what'd you think of Zoe Washburn?
So Tough Mudder. Like, this woman was a beast. She was the best. I called her sidearm, not sidekick, to Mao, that he could have. Like literally, couple of scenes that she was like, boom, like she was there for him. Like she whooped some tail in almost every episode that you see her in. She's there. She's got his back.
And the presence she had,
the presence she had, her role with Tudyk as his wife, like, oh my gosh, it was so well played. And I would love to go back. I'm gonna IMDb again and just see what she's played in otherwise, and watch that too, to kind of check her roles, because she just did amazing.
Christina?
So Zoe is probably my longest running woman crush. Absolutely. She is a bad mama jama, but what I love about her is even though she's completely loyal to Mal, she has no problem going against him when she feels like it's necessary, when it's a serious situation that affects her core.
Yeah.
And
but she still understood the chain of command enough that she, just because she didn't agree, there was times she'd be like, okay, well, this is the chain of command. We'll deal with this later.
Absolutely.
And that was so perfect for military.
Absolutely. But then you get to see this incredibly sweet, soft side of her in her whole romance. And that is like just the most amazing couple I've ever seen. And he has no problem with her strengths. And that's the other thing that made that relationship so incredibly sexy.
So, well, then let's go right on to Alan Tudyk, who played Wash. And if this is, I think this is where all the Alan Tudyk love started, is this show, I think. But this guy is like just a geek god. Everything he goes, I would put him above Nathan Filon as that, face of geekdom. He's just perfect for a lot of reasons. He plays us. Whenever he plays something, he's playing us. He's playing the geek. He's competent. He's not a klutz. He's very good at what he does. He's not socially inept, but he's not the life of the party. Yeah, there's just a lot to this character. And I'd say with their relationship, you can't separate the relationship. I hope that if they went forward, that they would never split them up. We're not talking about Serenity, but they would never split them up, and they're the couple you don't ever want to see broken up. You don't want to see Zoe end up with Mal.
They would mess with that, though. That like
it gives that line.
They would end up back together. Yeah, I know, but they would do it.
I wouldn't want them to, because I think that their relationship was better than that.
I agree.
So, let's start with Skeeter on this one with Wash.
Okay, so I am a diehard Tudyk fan. I everything that he's ever done. I mean, when you can break the world by being a chicken, you got this, right?
Yeah.
So he was Hey. He was I don't remember the numbers and letters in what was it, RDS2 or Rogue One. So like the dude in this is phenomenal. He's got the best dialect with regards to the Chinese. He plays opposite Zoe so good in everything that he does. He's an amazing pilot, like the way he plays his role as a pilot. So, I mean, my notes literally say Alan Tudyk, need I say more? Like,
that's fair.
It's everything he does in this. Like, the casting, whoever the casting director in this is, like, thank you.
Yeah.
I can't say enough about they put this crew together. I mean, now once we get to James, we'll talk. But
we'll get back
like,
to him.
The Tudyk character, Wash, I'm a fan. He's my hero.
What about you, Christina?
I adore his laconic sense of humor. I the way that they wrote him, and his calming presence when everybody else is getting heated, and he's that kind of like the voice of reason a little bit. But more than that, I love his complete adoration of Zoe. Like
Yeah,
I love it. I think it's
they're one character.
incredibly unique, and he was so incredibly believable.
Yeah. So tell me, what about you?
I mean, I agree with Skeeter. Alan Tudyk is just a wonderful, wonderful actor. His current work on Resident Alien is exceptional. Um, he he is so delightful. Now, the character of Wash specifically, like you said, Dub, is an everyman.
Yeah,
You know, he's the one that sort of gives us permission to join the crew, because he's sitting there playing with with his action figures, and he's got his little dinosaurs sitting, stuck to the console. So it's like it's taking this futuristic world and he's the character who really puts it into a framework of where we are now, so that we
yeah,
can relate and then buy into the rest of it.
yeah.
Um,
This
yeah.
show does not happen without him. Period.
Uh, yeah, I mean, they would be, if they were to do a sequel, they would be
In trouble.
not in trouble, but they would need to find oh God, Zoe's pregnant or something, and
Ugh.
has a kid. But it doesn't
And
have
it's a
to be
clone of
related.
Alan Tudyk. It's
Oh
amazing.
yeah,
Yeah. Let's
but
not do that.
yeah, it's I don't think this show happened without any single one of these people. This is truly an ensemble
Yeah.
show.
Okay, so let's talk about Inara Sierra. I think that's how you said her last name. Was played by Marina Baccarin.
Mhm.
She has been in DC stuff, Marvel stuff, Image stuff. She is got a lot of geek cred to her. Great character. I She was the one I was the most. Do we really need this character on the show when I first started? But she was a fantastic character. But that was my biggest hesitancy when I started. So tell me, what do you think about her?
Well, as a female, I did not expect to be okay with having uh
Worker.
yeah, no, but what was the name? I can't believe I'm blanking on what they call
I
them.
forgot.
Companion.
Companion, of having a companion, which is, she's essentially a geisha. This is somebody who is highly trained. It's not about sex. It's about being a companion. It's about, being someone for, if you do any study of geisha, many of them, sex was like the smallest part of it. It was about having intelligent conversations and, being a way for men or women to relax.
Mhm.
And it would be, as a female, I was all ready to just be up in arms and be like, F that is, mm-mm. And honestly, I was like, oh, well, watching human behavior, seeing how human culture functions and how slowly it changes,
Yeah.
it actually kind of makes sense.
Mhm.
It does make sense in this particular universe, especially, considering that they're working in either a place of lots and lots of money with the Alliance, or the Outer Rim, when you're talking about the episode. And I'm blanking now. I feel so bad, but the episode with she actually, I'm assuming I can say this, with the actual whorehouse,
Yeah.
and how she makes that differentiation between what those two are. And I just thought that was really interesting, and as a woman watching it, it just sort of gave me a lot of food for thought watching.
Christina?
All right. So what I love about her character is, even though she was a companion, a geisha, a courtesan, whatever you want to call her, she absolutely had her own agenda.
And control.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that they never took her power. And that was why I was able to accept her as the character that she was, because they never took her power.
Yeah, she even has a line at one point, that she chooses who her clients are. It's not the other way around.
Skeeter?
Powerful character. I love the relationship between her and Mal. It kind of had this tension, but not tension. You could see it,
It was for about
back and
3
forth.
seasons ahead was when we were going to see that all come to fruition.
Yep. So, but Satomi hit the nail on the head with this one. There was an episode when they go back to go get the mud. When she's with the the bigwig's son, and he walks in with his son, and he's like, "Rah!" And she's like, "Okay, you can leave now. Like, you don't need to be here. You don't get to be here. There's a whole process to this. We're going to drink this tea, and we're going to talk, and we're going to do this." And she was just so I can't think of the word, but everything about her was very cultured. It was very strong. And how do you do that in the role that you're playing? And she just was wonderful. Like,
And it could have gone so wrong.
yes,
There was a million ways for that character to go wrong.
And when like the episode with the sword fight, and the guy said, "You'll never work again. I'm going to tell everybody," and she goes, "No, that's not how this works. You are now black marked in the entire companion world. You'll never get another woman like this again."
Mhm.
I was like, "Oh," but no, love her and everything she plays. She did so good in this. It still kind of makes me sad that there's not more.
Okay, so we got 5 characters left that we got to hit, so we're going to have to hit them kind of fast. I apologize. It's not because we don't love these characters, but we're going to kind of jam through a little bit. Next one up is Adam Baldwin playing Janie Cobb, which, by the way, is the exact same character he played in Chuck, and I'm 100% okay with it. Love this character. I don't want him to do anything else because I don't think he can very well, to be honest. This is the character he was born to play, and he'll play it again and again. But love the character. Christina?
Adore Adam Baldwin 100%. He's not related to the Baldwins, by the way. His character is strong, powerful, but very, very single-minded, and it works in this show.
Yeah. So Tommy?
Same thing. He's he's a bit of the stereotypical dumb jock, but you can still follow his slightly skewed logic, and this kind of role absolutely is Adam Baldwin to
It's
a
his
T.
bread and butter. Yep.
It's his bread and butter.
Skeeter?
Every episode, every show needs a dun dun dun, and Adam Baldwin played it perfectly. He just, I still have the picture from Full Metal Jacket of Adam Baldwin.
Yeah.
The
less said on that scene, the better.
Yeah. So that's, he played the role that he needed to play.
Yeah.
That's it.
Now, and I just because of what Satoni said, what Skeeter said, I wanted to throw in one thing on that is he may be a dumb jock, but yes, you can follow his logic, and that's what makes him an important role. If you couldn't follow his logic, he's worthless. You can follow his logic every time. You may not agree with it, but you can definitely understand it.
Yep.
Made it simple. He made it simple to follow his logic. That's where I was going.
It was like, well, I'm going to go take the front. Well, why? You'd have to know why, not just because he wants to be a man. That's because that's what he feels is the smart thing to do. Okay, next one up is Kaylee Fry, Jewel State. I don't know how to state. Another fun character. I feel like she was definitely going to be getting more in further seasons. I don't think she had enough on this one, to be completely honest with you. Just great character all the way around. Skeeter.
She was fun. She handled it. She knew her craft. She loved it. And she just made things fun. Like her different lines and how she just kind of was quirky but smart and cute, and everything about her was just cool. I loved her role.
I liked her better than Nanera, to be honest with you, as a character. If you got to pick a favorite girl or whatever. Christina.
Zoe was my woman crush. Kaylee is everybody's favorite little sister. I adore her personality, her verve, her, like, even from the very moment where she eats the strawberry on season, the very first episode, just that joy that she finds in life is rare. And we didn't get enough of her. Absolutely, we did not get enough of her.
And I guarantee you would have seen more of her on future seasons. I think I feel like there was plans for it that they never got to. So Tommy,
Well, there was plans for everybody that they never got to,
well, true,
clearly.
but she got I think got the
Um,
least.
yeah. I mean, she's the innocent. She's the
Yeah,
innocent. And it's wonderful to have that sort of wide-eyed that space for that kind of character in this. It's almost like every single one of them is a different aspect of our own personalities. It's sort of like, like Disney's Inside Out, but for adults
yeah.
in space with cowboys
Wow, that's awesome, actually.
in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did
Uh,
enjoy that, even though she was very innocent, though.
yeah,
She was very comfortable with her own sexuality. Um, her body was still very much her own. Um, which is why when we got into the final episode, why that was such a terrifying moment.
yeah. And again, it wasn't pushed. It was this is who
No.
the character is, and she's
Yep.
strong and awesome. Okay, next one up is my least favorite character on the show, Dr. Simon Tam. I don't like. I don't like the
Yeah.
way he was played. Is to me the weak part of the show. I think he was written the worst. Take it as you will. So Tony, start with this one.
It took a long time for him to grow on me as well. I mean, he's the square, if we're talking types, and he
Mhm.
is the outcast in that yes, in that group. So I do also feel that he had the longest time of getting comfortable in his own character.
Yeah,
And that could have been, maybe they still didn't know exactly how deep that story went with him and River. Maybe they didn't know yet.
yeah,
So it's possible he didn't have as much to go with. I don't know. I I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt as a fellow
yeah.
actor.
Skeeter.
But my notes say at the beginning, I thought he was the guy with the secret. Um, Obviously had a secret at the very beginning. The only time that I felt like I started to feel he was loosening up was the mud episode when he got, when they started drinking the milk. And then he went right back to his
Yeah.
role. I was struggling with that, but he was doing, I mean, he played the part. He was a doctor, and he was there to protect his sister, and that's what he did.
Christina.
I'm just gonna say he was by far the driest character.
Yeah. It just wasn't flushed. And you know what? You have this big a cast. It's gonna happen from time to time. Okay, now let's go with the breakout star of the show, Summer Glau, who played River Tam. I feel like yes, they gave her a lot of screen time, but they didn't even touch what they should have been doing with her. Love this character.
Well, I think that's what Serenity was for.
Yeah. But even with that, I feel like it just didn't get enough. I want to see more of, yeah. But again, that's just, you're not going to get it. But I liked what they did with her. Christina.
I love Summer Glau. Almost everything she's been in, I have 1000% been on board. I do agree that I wanted to see more of her, but it was really nice to see her in Serenity, a little more fully fleshed out, and to see her power.
Mhm.
But I mean, I could talk forever about her, so I'm gonna let somebody else go because we're on a time crunch.
Skeeter.
So spent time trying to figure out what was going on. We find out, early on she's a genius. She's this, she's that. I
She's
love her
Superman.
interaction with the shepherd. But literally, they definitely needed to push this thing out a little farther so we could get more of the character, to know who she actually was. She did a wonderful job. Almost felt like she was kind of a mystic, but not, and just it was crazy.
Yeah.
But it was good. She did a wonderful job.
Nice. And Satomi, I know you want to hit her real quick, and then I'll do Shepherd by myself. But yeah, let's hear.
I mean, I love River, and I think the reason we didn't see more from her is obviously her arc is the one that will drive or would drive the rest of the show launching into future seasons. And so that's why we didn't see as much of it, because they were just warming up. I mean, 2 by 2 Hands of Blue. We're just popping right. It's such a great springboard with all of the stuff that was happening with her. And of course, they tried to cover as much of it in Serenity as they could, but we did miss a few things, like we lost the Hands of Blue stuff. And but it's just a wonderful character. And Summer Glau has always been pretty compelling when you look at, like, when she was in Angel and she
Terminator.
played the ballerina, and then, Terminator, which came later. It's interesting to see which actors have either been able to / chosen to move on to other genres as well. Julie stayed squarely in the sci-fi range. Gina Torres is like all over the place. And I'm always curious what drives how that happens in a career, where you head, don't always have control over it.
That's true. Now we have one more, and I'm gonna hit it myself, and that is Shepard. Talk about a million ways that you could go wrong with a character. You literally are introducing a religious element into this universe without offending anybody. It was never. I mean, they could have gone, he's a big hypocrite or whatever, and they didn't do that. He believed his beliefs. He had a past, but he was never the push it in your face. He was never the butt of the joke. They did that just so right. And I'm sorry we got to close it off here because we're way over time, guys. So check out our website, www.iheartgeekshow.com. Use Con We Paid Extra for it. Do the contest on our What If episodes. Do like, subscribe, talk to us on Facebook, on Twitter, on Discord, on Instagram, on TikTok. We're everywhere. And until next time, I'm Dub. I'm here with Christina and Skeeter and Satomi. Keep on geeking on, guys.
You have been listening to the latest episode of the iHeart Geek Show. Make sure you visit our website at www.iheartgeekshow.com. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And if you check us out on YouTube, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And keep on geeking on to all of you geek rock stars.